Well, I personally don't think they're going to get 6 weeks of warning. I think maybe they might be lucky if they get 6 days of warning, and more than likely it'll be 2 days of warning. And they were told a month and a half ahead of time so that way they'd have time to decide what they wanted to put in their bags.
Mm-hmm.
And that 6 weeks of warning is nonsense. I mean, why would they give them 6 weeks of warning knowing that they'll blab the whole thing to everybody they ever knew prior to being packed up? I think they'll be lucky if they get 1 or 2 days of warning. They'll get called and say, it's time to go, and they'll have 15 minutes to get ready to head out. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You know, I mean, knowing how these guys operate, I don't believe that they'll get 2 days of warning. I mean, they might get 1 day or 6 hours or, a half day or 1 day or 2 days. I don't think they'll get more than 2 days. I mean, really, do you?
I think they have a good idea what the trajectory of this thing is, but I think we're not really going to see it until it's right up on our ass.
Well, I'll tell you what, that would be my guess, that we won't see it until it's on us. But I will tell you one thing. We'll have some really good warnings if everybody's looking up and paying attention. First off, they'll notice red dust on the windshield of their vehicles. And at first, it'll be light dust, indicating that it's 10, 15 hours away. If they notice that the dust is real noticeable on their windshield, they can bet that it's in less than 10 hours away. If they have heavy red dust on their windshields, it's only a matter of hours away, and they'd better immediately take cover because they're out of time. It's too late to decide to load this or that up. I don't think there'll be a lot of warning, but when we were looking at it on the Hubble, this red dust field appeared to be going out at least as far as maybe 2 times the size of the planet. So, that means that it's probably a few 100,000 miles going out into space around it, all the way around it, which means that just before it arrives, which will be a matter of hours, we'll start seeing red dust coming out of the atmosphere onto everything. And of course, a vehicle windshield would be the best thing to spot it on, because then you'll be able to see its true color and realize that you're seeing the red iron oxide dust from it. And that'll be probably between that and the earthquakes. And I think probably as it approaches, we'll start to hear the electromagnetic interference between it and us, maybe see bizarre events in the sky with the clouds, and, maybe colors flashing around in the atmosphere. There'll probably be quite a variety of warnings that it's approaching and that it's within hours of passing. It's going to be a lot more. The CIA people I talked to said that they're expecting at least a 220 to 230 degree roll, maybe a little more. They fully expect the center of the United States to be at the equator when it's over. No. I'm saying 220 to 230. That's what they're guessing. But then again, you got to remember.
That's still a pretty good clip.
Yeah, well, this thing's going to go by and give us a spin, and that's where we're going to supposedly stop. They told me they ran 10,000 case scenarios on shifting the planet upside down. They did it 10,000 times on the Earth. They tried different locations to see what they'd come up with, and it averaged out at 220 to 230 degree roll. So, I think probably them knowing the trajectory isn't, I don't think that's a matter of question. I'm sure they know the trajectory. I'm sure they know the exact minute it's going to show up. I've heard a lot of stories that I would only tell you in private about this, because it's so far over the top, most people would go into immediate denial if they heard it. So, The most I can say is that they better be expecting at least a 180 to a 220 degree pole roll when this happens. And as far as that bulge around the center of the planet, I got news for everybody. This thing is going to do a very fast roll, and that water is going to go everywhere. The Lord warned you. The oceans will roar from pole to pole. Is there some part of that nobody understands?
The average depth?
Yeah, what's the average depth of the ocean around the world?
10,000 feet. 10,000 feet.
It's about 2.5 miles. That's the average depth of the ocean. Although the depth does increase at the equator because there's spots where it's averaging 7 miles deep. Pole rolling into the position of the South Pole. That means that the North Pole has got to go through that bulge before it can reach its final resting place. So we're going to have 7 miles of water doing some serious washing around on the land.
So let me ask you this. If we did a 220-degree pole shift, would that be an instantaneous pole shift, or would that be a...
No, it's going to be, as I understand, it's going to happen over the course of half an hour to an hour. And actually, they said 28 minutes.
That's pretty instantaneous.
That's pretty fast, yeah.
That's pretty fast.
We're going to probably see 400-mile-an-hour wind on the surface. We're going to see big-time water splashing around. We're going to see earthquakes that are so bad that it'll set off every volcano ridge on the entire planet. Every volcano ridge on the entire planet will be going off. The tectonic plates will be being jerked apart by probably miles apart, as the surface of the earth will be like a bowl of jello. It'll be flexing around so hard that every tectonic plate everywhere on the planet will open. The volcanoes will be shaken so hard that they'll start erupting. It's going to be one horrific scenario after another. You're looking at hell on earth here. This ain't going to be no joke. This is going to really eliminate a lot of people because either they didn't know about it or they didn't believe, or whatever the case may be. It's going to be a real shame for them because I'll tell you, when Nibiru rolls the planet upside down, it's going to kill 4 billion people, and that's the first day, and the rest will survive on, but very few survivors will still be around when the weather finally gets good enough to get a full growing season, because they just were not prepared enough to make it, and it's going to eliminate a lot of people. I mean, I wouldn't be under these underground facilities that all of these elite people think they're going to hide out in, because they're going to be torn to pieces by the flexing of the planet. I mean, the crust of this planet is going to really act up big time, and there won't be any survivors in those underground facilities. Well, I'll tell you what. I really don't think that the survivorship of this will be real high because of the denial. The level of denial in this country is obvious by Department of Homeland Security planning to fight everybody. The United States government has been terrorizing everybody around the world forever and ever. The churches are all in denial. I mean, the Chinese, they take babies and cook them up into stew and stuff. It's taken over this planet, and that's why I said about the churches being asleep. The churches have not protested this at all, and they're going to pay dear for having kept their mouths shut and been politically correct. This is the one that's going to cost them their ass, and one evil thing stacked on top of another. And all of these people that have been condoning all of this stuff, they don't talk about it. They just, they own stock in the companies, and they think they're getting rich, and what they're actually doing is getting ready to die, and they don't even know it. I tell people all the time, guess what? You're probably not going to be alive this time next year, so don't worry about what you're doing. Well, but, one of his favorite subjects is to talk about giants, because our military has ran into quite a few of them in caves in the Middle East over there. And they've came across several ones that were alive. They've even managed to capture a couple of them. They've had to kill a few of them because these guys aren't little guys. Apparently they caught one recently that was, I don't know, I guess about 14 feet tall, and they had a hell of a time subduing him. They discovered that their small arms fire were not very effective against these guys, but you know, when I think about the size of that spaceship that I saw last year going across the mountains here in Colorado, I don't know how big these guys are. Steve Quayle says they're real big, that some of them are as tall as 38 feet. This thing was big enough to where it could have had a few thousand of those 38-foot tall guys in it, and it would have been no problem, because I'm telling you, this thing was at least 1,000 feet in diameter, maybe more, and at least a couple of miles long. I mean, it was big. I don't have any trouble understanding that there could be races out there that are real big guys, and there's no way that you're going to be able to fight these guys to kill them or anything. You know, if you think about what happened, when was that, about 10, 15 years ago, that big one landed in Russia right in the town square, and these great big guys got out of it and were working on it while the whole town stood around and watched and went, holy shit, look how big these guys are. And they were great big guys. I guess they were about 12 feet tall or something, and they were working on their spaceship. And when they got it repaired, they flew off in it. But, you know, it landed right in the middle of the town square. Mm-hmm. And everybody in the whole town saw it. And it was a couple of mentions on the news about it, but not really too much. Mainly in the little rag newspapers and stuff were pictures of it. And a lot of people took pictures of it. They took pictures of the guys that were working on it, and they were great big suckers. So, you know, are there big guys out there? Yeah, there are. Well, the Bible says we're going to see all kinds of stuff happening. And I can tell you, these military people have been so far out of control for so long, I think the American people would be terribly shocked if they ever got away from their vomit TV and started checking out what their government's been doing. They would not only be horrified, but they'd be in shock and horrified at the same time, just how really far out of control these people actually are. And all of this stuff has been kept a secret because the American people are willfully stupid. And this is going to come home to haunt them. I can guarantee you there's going to be trouble on the horizon they can't even imagine. And I can tell you, just the thought of 14, 15-foot tall guys dressed in military uniforms doing God knows what. I mean, I've always thought since day one that the pyramids were built prior to the last pole shift, and that they were stacked up probably by these big guys, because there's really no other explanation for how stones that big got mounted up. I mean, you look at some of those things, and the architecture and design and construction is just so far over the top. And now we've got all of these ragheads over there in Egypt talking about they want to tear them down.
Yeah,
well,
I was
you know
talking
what?
about that earlier today.
Yeah, this is just insanity. They took out their dictators around the world. They've been taking out the dictators so that they could put in their dummies and get their one world order thing going, which is how they've got to do it. They've got to take out all the leaders in every country, and then place their Rothschild dictators in position. And of course, you know, that'll bring in their one world order because they'll all work for the same guy. But you know, now they've got these morons down there in Egypt that want to tear down the pyramids. They want to do this. They want to do that. You know, I don't know how they plan on doing it. You know, what are they going to put a nuclear weapon in the thing and blow it up or what? Because they're sure as hell not equipped to dismantle it manually. They'll have to blow the things apart. They put.
I was afraid afraid the government would respond to the financial crisis by doing more of the same policies that caused it, which is more deficit spending, more cheap money, more central banking and central planning. And as a result, I think the U.S. economy is now poised for a much bigger collapse. I think that what's coming is a sovereign debt crisis and a currency crisis that will make the financial crisis of '08 look like, the proverbial Sunday school picnic.
This is something that's affecting the economy right now.
Oh, absolutely. The fiscal cliff specifically is one of the major ways in which the slow recovery that we have could be completely derailed. Hard landing in China, euro collapsing, problems in the Middle East, and fiscal cliff is probably paramount in that area.
As a matter of policy, as opposed to an apocalyptic.
And the most important price is interest rates, which have to go up.
That is
but no one wants to let them go up because the banks will fail.
We currently have no price integrity in any asset in America.
And we're on the precipice of collapse. That's
right.
So
this system is in collapse, and it's unbelievable, and most people don't even see what's going on. If you watch CNBC, if you actually pay attention to the U.S. media, they will always tell you there's green shoots or it's going to be a recovery. There's no chance of that.
You don't think there are any signs of that?
It's not possible. We're in the last days of this financial system in the U.S. This is Zimbabwe. When it starts to collapse, it's going to happen very fast. If people don't start to wake up to what's going on, they're going to get hurt in this collapse. But this is where it's going now, that we have to now just get as far away from the U.S. and from the Western world, because this collapse is going to be messy.
We've got to ask ourselves, why are the feds preparing for a war against Americans? Why have they bought now more than 2 billion bullets, all kinds of arms and ammunition, and now more than 2,700 tanks to patrol in America and keep order? We're told it's because they love us. We're told it's to keep the peace and to increase safety. But of course, we also know from Army documents, from Homeland Security reports, and a lot of other information that it's really to occupy America and prepare for a civil unrest and a total economic collapse that will include gun confiscation.
The rise of the warrior cop. So, what do you mean? Our cops are getting increasingly like soldiers. They're being dressed like soldiers, they're being armed like soldiers, they're sent out in the streets told they're fighting war. And when you do that, we shouldn't be surprised when we see some of the results we've seen at the lead-in, where they start treating American citizens more like enemy combatants than citizens with rights.
Meaning, mostly you're talking about these SWAT team raids.
Over the last probably 20 years, there's been about a 1,500% increase in the number of SWAT raids in the U.S.
Often it's 10 or 20 guys dressed in black, heavily armed.
I mean, they look like a military squad. I mean, they look like a unit that would invade a village in Iraq looking for insurgents.
Speaking of the police state, which 9/11 ushered in, a 16-year-old is questioned by FBI officials over a YouTube video that he uploaded. According to Justin Holman, a 16-year-old, after having uploaded a YouTube video which highlighted how America was slipping into a police state, he was visited by FBI officials.
Police state?
I asked one of them why they're here.
What's up, nigga? Police state? Police state, bro. Police state. 4th of July. Here's our video. M16s.
Because we don't live in a police state, sir. Martial law has not been established in this country. Open the door, sir. He's got his hand up. You're going to kick my door. You kicked my door down. You kicked my door down. Get on the ground. You kicked my door down. Yes, we did. Get on the ground. No, you have no right to be in here. 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 Do not touch her. You are assaulting her.
Yeah, I didn't open up the door. I went open up. Now they're barging in my door for what reason? Down! Put your hands! Hands coming in! Now! Don't move! Wait, don't move!
we saw in response to bombs was that? What will the response be in the wake of something bigger? Is that when we'll see martial law take effect across the country? And more importantly, will people just accept it entirely out of fear?
It was never meant that we would have this gigantic police force from the federal government. I mean, we had martial law up there. FBI and all these agents coming in, closing things down, going to people's houses.
The police state is staring us in the eye, and it's getting more and more imposed upon us and more imposed on society every day. More and more people are waking up faster and faster and faster.
I think it could very well come to that based on the things that are happening in the news, and we're seeing, you know, the collapse of our economy, so many different things happening.
I have spoken with one federal agent, and the information succinctly boiled down is this. There is an event coming, Steve, in the very near-term future that is going to affect the United States of America to its very soul. That what is being planned, as you and I are on the air tonight, and what has been coming together into that old term, the perfect storm, is literally brewing right over our heads. It is and includes military maneuvers in the United States, military actions that are forthcoming, and that will be so deep and so penetrating that the United States will never be the same.
We've heard about the NSA spying on us all and think, no big deal. I'm not a terrorist, so I have nothing to worry about. Think again. Because we are all potential terrorists, according to the American government.
You can't just do these kind of things. And this one is not only repealing the principles of liberty, but it's destroying the Constitution.
All of these invasions of our personal privacy under the guise of protecting us, they're just wrong. And it's no longer about keeping us safe. This is about keeping us safely under the government's eye. And it is clear the government is watching all the time.
Oil looks higher. Gold looks higher, currencies look weaker. More about this currency crisis you see erupting. What does that assume about what's going to happen to the dollar? Well, it assumes that the dollar will utterly get destroyed and become virtually worthless. I don't know how that inevitably resolves itself. It may resolve itself in some type of a global currency crisis. And then if the global currency crisis unfolds, then inevitably you get, I guess, an alignment under a global world government, a new global currency, and a new world order.
Growing debate in Washington following reports that some U.S. senators are now considering an immigration bill that would force all U.S. workers to carry around biometric ID cards. Well, it is an idea that is now raising some serious concerns among privacy advocates.
Through the advancing market of biometrics, technology that uses physiological and behavioral recognition to identify people. A system touted as a national security necessity is being used to build a database where the biometric identity of millions of Americans will be gathered and stored.
We really need to attack this in a comprehensive kind of way, not some knee-jerk reaction like sticking something in someone's finger to verify who they are and whether or not they can be employed in this country.
The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has been buying up massive amounts of ammunition. Americans are wondering why.
Do you think this is a sign that they're preparing for some sort of mass civil unrest?
If you look at what the Department of Homeland Security has been purchasing over the last year, it comes out to like 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition, more than 7,000 fully automatic assault weapons, 2,700 MRAP type vehicles, and now drones. Those are instruments of war. Department of Homeland Security's, who are they going to fight a war against?
When I participate in assisting the feds coming into states and going into homes and taking everybody's gun away, and I said I would not be a part of something like that. And I said one of the reasons is I wouldn't want to get shot, because the American people are only going to put up with so much before they push back. And I said, if the feds tried to do that, disarm this country, I said you would see an uprising and maybe a version of the Second American Revolution.
stars are moving in secure key areas along with response to UN presence in Minneapolis.
Ago, and he did a great video on it, but the artist that did it requested that I put it up too because he didn't know if it was getting enough exposure. Very excited about it. But again, it's the polarized lens drone flight that you saw, and we're going to analyze that a little bit together, okay? So here is the footage, and he actually goes back and forth on it, trying to see if he can get it to lens flare. And as I push in and up on this thing and look at it really closely, you can see the orbs. Okay. Now, do I think that these are planets? Do I think that they are sun? What do I think these things are? Okay. Well, what I really think that these things are, if you look really close at this, you can see that there's a little bit of a bite on this second orb right here. So what I'm thinking that these objects or phenomena is I really do believe that this is the false sun, and this is the real sun. Or one of these two things is the real sun. So it shows us not two planets necessarily, but maybe it still shows and points to the phenomenon that we're looking at. The next thing I want to look at is this. Okay, this is an IRT camera, NASA IRT-F exterior of the dome. And watch this, and then we're going to manipulate the photograph a little bit here in a second. This is the first time I've seen this. This could be some reflections off the thing. But there is definitely something over here that I've never seen before. Let's take a closer look. Okay, and now with the magic of photo manipulation, I will try to see if we can see what is there. Okay, well, I bump the saturation, then I play with the brightness. I always do it the same way every time. Just look at the brightness a little bit, and then I contrast it up. So now let's look at that as it moves. And you can see some textures on there and so forth. So just an interesting little take on that thing, okay? The next picture I'm going to show you, and this is the orb that we continue to see in Alaska, again, seen today at the Perryville Southeast location. Not as dramatic of an apparition as we had a couple days ago, but there it is. That's untouched. And just like I do, I'm getting to the point now where I think it's best for everybody to kind of see me do it untouched first, and then you can see me bump the saturation up a little bit, and bump up the brightness, okay? And a little bit of contrast. There's actually no photoshopping or anything like that going on here. But again, this object has been seen literally all over the world. It's being seen in all cameras now. And you say, well, when I look up, I can't see it. Well, the reason for that is because they're blocking it with special nanotechnology up in our skies. That's why you see these big chemtrailers going around all the time doing that. So it makes it very difficult. But the difference between an eyeball and a camera is a camera will pick up a little bit on the side of IR and a little bit on the side of UV that human eyes don't do. And you have to look at the specifications of each camera to find that out. But in this case, what we're seeing in these pictures is absolutely either a refraction of an object that does not belong in our solar system or the object itself. Now, we've seen this for a long time. So what it convinces me is that this is the Nemesis star hung in its orbit, per the information that we've gotten from inside sources, that it came in fast and then it slowed down in 2007 through 2012. And from 2012 to 2017, things were pretty stable. We were still seeing the objects on Setchi, etc. But as we learn more information, we know now that the star itself is back in movement again. So we have to keep a very close eye on it with the things in mind that we know. The next thing I'm going to show you, though, is quite remarkable. This is from a sky cam in New Mexico today. Check this out. Do you see how the object rotates? And do you see this little doodad right here? That, my friends, I believe is the real object down here. And I believe that this is a reflection of that object on that upper layer of the atmosphere. That's why it sometimes has a lot of detail and sometimes doesn't have a lot of detail. It depends on the angle of the camera. But as you can see, this is a large orb surrounded by a red dust with a hole in it. Next thing I want to look at with you, and this is one of those rare shots. I don't know if you guys watch the all sky cameras, but this is, I think, from Moonglow Observatory. And they have been clouding this area really, really bad because I think it's an ideal location to view the system. And you'll see what I mean here in a second. The green planet object shows up and the red object shows up in this particular cut. There it is. Did you see it? See if I can get it back on here again. But again, these are maybe things, and look at how the green thing is behind the clouds there, okay? Now, what's happening is, based on the information that we're getting right now, there is a green object that Matthew Rogers has well documented from the ISS and that we've documented for many months. And there's a large red object out there that we think is the Nemesis Hercules star. And then, as you'll see tomorrow night when we talk to Bob Evans is going to bring us some earth-shattering photography tomorrow. He's bringing us best shots. Bob has been collecting this stuff for a long time, okay? And I think that we're privileged to have him as a speaker at the Thrive Conference in Boise and in Minneapolis. And we're privileged to have, also now, we have confirmed that David Meade is going to be at the conference. So what this is forming up to be is the Titans of Planet X conference, is what it's really turning out to be right now. So make sure you check that out. Check out the information. Click on the link below and see if you want to attend that. Similarly, WSO Live, we're putting up premium content every day. There's been, some people have been trying to keep people from looking at our material on there by saying there's nothing there and it's not worth it. Well, I'll tell you something, man. We have no complaints about our content. We might have complaints about some technical issues from time to time, but WSOLive.com has some of the most interesting interviews, pictures, videos, things that you will very, very much value from. Nobody complains about the content on there once they're a member, guys. All right, so let's move on to the next. These pictures just came in hot. I want to put them in this video today. Guys, it's getting so real right now. When I think about David Meade and date setting and all that kind of stuff, the people that we're talking about, guys, the amount of information that is crashing in right now to all the researchers right now. If you go search Nibiru, there's going to be about 1.7 gazillion hits. The information is leaking out. People are becoming aware. The truth is vibrating. That we're coming into a truth vibration, or at least some of us are. And when you see things like what I'm seeing here, this is very convincing evidence. And what this particular artist creator did was they went and took pictures from the UVMet network. And it turns out that we're seeing, not just here, okay? Look at this. Look at it move across the sky. I don't know if I got the timing right here. 253, 310, 340. Remember when Jeff P used to say that was like Nibiru, when you'd see that spider thing like that, and everybody was saying it was a spider on the lens? Well, I guess they were wrong, huh? Let's take a close look at this object. So anyway, everybody's like asking me like, oh, Steve, if you think the end is coming, why would you want to be a part of WSO Live? Well, here's why. Because we are going to be putting so much information on there in the next 6 months that you cannot miss, okay? We're going to be putting up all kinds of things. How to free yourself of nanotechnology, how to deal with groups, how to do all kinds of stuff, and we're building this content library very quickly. You'll need access to some of these things or find it somewhere else. We're also trying to rebuild our community structure in such a way that people can find each other through the forums and different things that we're doing. So all the things that you see us doing in WSO Live right now are with a sense of urgency and a high cost to try to get everybody as ready as we possibly can get you, while funding the operation at the same time. Do we think it's the end of the world, the end of the internet, the end of everything when this thing starts to blow loose like David Meade and Bob Evans and Father Malachi and all the different people all the way through are saying that 2017 is the year? Well, what is it the year for? It's the year for the appearance of Nibiru. It's the year that we have to deal with it as a race. There was in a book that one artist wrote that talked about the 21 days of deception. When you think about President Trump's trip, we thought about it and considered it deeply. He went to the three major Abrahamic religions. Let's just straighten this out right now. He went to Israel, he went to Saudi Arabia, and he went to the Vatican. The Vatican is the center, believe it or not, guys, of all Christianity. You might not like hearing that, Protestants, but all your books come from there. Number two, he went to the seat of power and central control of the Muslim world. The Muslims, that basically, if you don't know this, the Saudi royal family is the ones that are right now are the protectors of the Muslim faith, because they have Mecca in their country, and therefore the royal family is the protector of the Muslim faith. They practice an extreme form of Wahhabism, which is the source of ISIS terror and so forth. And then the last country he went to with Netanyahu, Jerusalem. So the three centers of Abrahamic faiths, all three of these faiths share the same eschatology, and I would say all three faiths share the same script. I don't believe the script anymore. I believe that that is a deception. I don't believe we have to sit here and take a beating from these gods. I think what we do is we come together as a species and we do our best to survive this and kind of know that it's a script, know that it's got a lot of truth in it. But I'm starting to think at this point in time that the whole Abrahamic triad of eschatology is nothing but a huge deception to get people to cow down and not take sovereignty of their lives so that they can be re-enslaved. That's what I think. Anyway, that's just me. So, and I still love Jesus. I still love Christ consciousness, and I'm a practicing Buddhist. But here's the thing. Check that out. Look at this. Look at that cloud formation that is around it. That would be the debris trail behind it as well. You can see how it's like kind of pointing off into different directions there. This is the most amazing photograph. One of the, I keep saying that with every photo. This is the most amazing photograph I've ever seen. This one though is actually showing plasma. It's showing energy. It is really quite amazing of a photograph, you guys, and set of photographs. So I'm gonna end up this video at this point right now and just say, don't forget about the Thrive Conference. Make sure you hit that early discount because the discounts will be gone by June 15th. And if there are seats left after that, then the price goes up. However, we will be having the closed circuit option. We call it the pay-per-view, but really you're prepaying, and then we're going to give you a closed circuit access to it. You'll be able to if you can't travel, you can participate that way. A couple of our speakers, like right now, I'm in discussions with Bob Fletcher and his wife right now to see if we can have Bob come too. But Bob and I are friends. Bob Evans and I are friends. David Meade and I are friends. All of these different researchers that are going to be there are my friends, and we talk all the time and we share stuff together all the time. So there is a community of call it Planet X Titans that feel very necessary to come to WSO's aid right now because they truly think that what they're saying to me is that they're appreciating the approach that we're taking to it, and so they want to share the information with us. And I think that's a beautiful thing. We're trying to get Gerald Clark nailed down for closed circuit. We've got a bunch of other stuff going on, guys. You are not going to want to miss that event. Now, let's talk about the spiritual stuff that's coming on this thing, okay? There is going to be a lot of change in 2017, regardless if it's the ultimate event. Do you really think that this is going to be a big event that's just going to blow up on September 23rd, 2017? Do you really think that's the way it's going to go down? It's a 7-year tribulation. And what David Meade was telling us, it's 2017 through 2024. So will there be a day where everybody's going to know, blah, blah, blah? Yeah, that's what we're probably more talking about. This thing is already here. It's visible in the skies. John Moore said when we saw Nibiru in the sky, which we are seeing clearly, we had 4 to 6 months to prepare. And what's going to happen with WSO Live? What's going to happen with all the work that we're doing? We plan on continuing it through the tribulation period if that happens. That's why we're putting the sophisticated technology into place, because they won't be able to shut us down in the background. This is top secret stuff. So what we are setting up right now is potentially going to be able to defeat and keep us in communication with each other during this time. And that's what we're working on right now, man. And it's not cheap. So help us out, guys. Send us a donation. Participate in a conference. Go to WSO Live. But whatever you do, man, don't let the separation and fighting continue. Now, we had to put a statement out yesterday to answer specific allegations that were made against WSO and Steve Olson. It was not an attack on the people that were attacking us. It was a clarification for our audience, who right now needs to trust the Nibiru community. We need to learn to retrust each other and reconcile and share information, not take information from each other. This is not a competition or a marketing contest. This isn't about money or making money. This is about us helping the human race to understand what's going on the best we possibly can, to pull together with our Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist, all together as a species now, and not be under the influence of the powers that be, nor under their control anymore. This is our opportunity to break that pattern, and that's what we should be about. We should be about the research. We should be about the information, not about trying to cut each other down. Scott, all the guys over at, all the guys that are working on Nibiru Planet X, David Dobbs, any of those kinds of channels, if there's been any conflict, there is none coming from us. But we can't let accusations stand, you guys. We weren't trying to attack anybody else. We just want to make sure that you understand that our intentions are pure. I have tons of people that are lining up behind WSO right now that want to help us, that have been longtime players in this space. Bob Evans and I spent 2 hours on the phone today preparing for our call tomorrow. You do not want to miss the Bob Evans interview, guys. That is going to be unbelievable, the information that he's bringing us. So anyway, last point, love each other. Be kind to each other. Don't try to hurt other people. Focus on your own development. Focus on your connection with Source. Focus on your connection with God. Focus on your spiritual life. Do not outwardly focus, inwardly focus, and then